Alright guys, so in the last video you saw how we did pre-shades. We're going to do things differently now. We're going to move away from actual basing or priming. We're going to go into actual basing and some highlights now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do again the Zenithal highlight, which I introduced last video, but we're actually going to just use paints now. So he's already primed black, as you can see, and we're going to paint him in the motif of Dark Angels because that's what I play. So we're going to use Caliban green as a base. Then for your first highlight, we're going to use Warpstone Glow, and then the last one will be Moot Green, and then we're going to bring it all together with Waywatcher Green Glaze. So let's get started. All right, and we are back now. Again, we have our black model here, and we're going to show off the Zenithal highlighting using just colors, and then we're going to go into our glaze. So what we're going to do is, this is your base color of Caliban green. So you're just going to do what we always do, give it a good spritz in the green. That's going to be hard to tell the green on black, just because it's such a dark green, but you go ahead and when you're doing this, put it up to the tone that you want. Build it up however many layers you want. I'm just using the rock back technique that I use, which is just rocking the actual trigger back and forth so that I get all of it. Now you're just looking for armor. You're not gonna get the You're not gonna get the gun too much. The gun is gonna be red, of course, if you know Blood Angels. They have their red guns, just to give them a little Christmas feel. Yeah, that's right, a little Christmas. But here we go. Just giving it one more last good little coat, because I want this to be a deep, rich, dark green. I want it to actually show, and you're gonna see the difference once we actually start adding the highlight colors. You just want to make sure that you're getting all the nooks and crannies here. Like I said, his arms, his little fingers right here on his gun get neglected a bit, but not from me, no sir. Alright, and there's our base color. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you the next color, which is going to be Warpstone Glow. Alright guys, and now that our base color is complete, you can see nice dark Caliban green. We're going to use Warpstone Glow. Now this isn't an air paint, it's just a regular GW, so we're going to have to do a little mixing right here. Make sure we get that, that might be a little too light for even for airbrushing. That might be good. Let's try that out. Let's see. Let's try it out right here on the side. That is perfect. Alright, so you can see that's a totally different green right there. We're going to lower the PSI a bit, just because we want to have a little more control with it. So here we go. We're going to do the 45-degree angle. So basically, hold your model straight like this. Hold your airbrush at an angle. Now, you can hold it as close as you want, basically, but I suggest maybe a little further out, like just about that. So, and again, since this is more watery than I anticipated, you can see right there how it's starting to collect. That's a little bit of what we don't want. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little more paint. And again, this is kind of just we're playing it fast and loose here, just because honestly with airbrushes it's a little more difficult than painting by the brush. And I think that's why it turns a lot of people off, to be honest with you. Just the fact that it's a little bit harder to just set up and paint, even though in the long run it actually saves you a lot of time. But that might be a little more what we're looking for. Let's see if this is what I'm looking for. And you can see there's still a little bit of the highlight there, but you're not gonna see the airbrush in the shot, just because, yeah. And that's more of what we're looking for, just testing it. And like I said, 45-degree angle. So you want to have it facing down on your model at a 45-degree angle. And just testing it, just testing. And again, if it's too watery, like it is, it's just a little too watery, but we can work with it. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna have it dry a little more. So right here, rock it back and forth on some key areas, again 45-degree, and then we're just going to just use air now. So what you're hearing right now is just the air. There is no paint. It is just me pressing on the trigger down, and that is it. Not rocking it back and forth, no nothing. Just making sure we're getting a good air balance here. And then just hit it again. And you can do this however you like. You can make these really bright. Make sure to get a little bit of hands. Now I've been out of frame a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. But you're starting to see there's a little bit of a transition now in terms of how it's actually hitting the model. So you can again do this however you like. You can make it as light as you want, really. And hit it with some more air right there. You know what? Let's do it a little bit right there. Just give it a little bit of love. As you can see there's still, if you look down here, there's still some of that dark green around at the bottom. And this is what Zenithal is actually all about. It's all about getting a nice transition. But this is pretty much it for the first highlight. So we have our base and we have our first highlight. Now we're gonna go on to our actual highest highlight or second highlight, and that's gonna be moot green. All right, guys, so now we're gonna go into our second highlight. So again, this is gonna be an air, but we just want a couple of drops in there. We're gonna want more paint because the air paints, as you can see, a little bit thinner. And again, this is just moot green. I do like these air because you can just pour it in like this. Boom. All right, we don't need a ton. So let's see. Let's see if that'll work. That seems to work. And this is like such a strong or bright green. It almost comes out yellow in contrast to a lot of it. And you're probably right. It is a very light green. There is a lot more yellow in it, but we're gonna, and it might look a little weird, to be honest with you, when you actually paint the model and once we're done with it, just because of like how stark it is. But we're gonna fix that with something, and I'll leave that till the end. But right now, again, we're gonna do Zenithal. So we did the base, and then we did the first highlight at 45 degrees. Now we're going to do our second highlight, and that is right on top. So again, if you wanted to do it right on top here, that's fine. But I'm gonna do it horizontally just because for me it's a little bit easier. So give it a little test, and then and you're seeing immediately how big of a difference this is in terms of just colors. It is very, very bright. So we're gonna do some rocking technique right here. I'm gonna tell you to rock back on that thing, and then we're just gonna let just testing it right there. But we're just gonna hit it with some air, making sure that it's all good. And then looks like it's dry, so let's hit it back with some rocking technique. Right up on top. You're gonna see how it kind of just a little, kind of like little specks. That is not supposed to happen, but we're gonna work with it. I'm going to add little highlight right here because I want those fingers, those little fingers. There you go. And now you can just hit the top of his boots like that if you want. Maybe given that sufficient time at the very top. And there you go. You see right here. This is complete just transition. And it might look a little wonky. It might look a little weird, but still got one more step. And it's gonna be the pow that you need. So for me, that looks like a little more work. But and you see I changed the model, you know, all over the place. Just do it however you feel comfortable. Like I said, I like to do it horizontally. I like to mix it up, just get some little parts here or there, but for the most part, just get it right on top of his head. This is what this last highlight is about. You see how it is very, very light up here, and you can see kind of what's going on. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on to our last step. So right here, whoops, right here, good. All right, if you like the way that this looks right here, when you're doing it, if you like the way this looks, go ahead and leave it. That's fine. I like to keep the transitions a little more tight, and we're gonna use a specific product for that. All right, guys, and here's our model. So you see it right here. We have all the little nice transition, but it might be a little too stark for some of you. So what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna use some glaze. This Citadel glaze is Way Watcher green. Now what this is, give it a good shake. It's almost like a shade, but instead of going into all the recesses and all that kind of stuff, it actually, what it does is it mutes some of the color. So, you know, with this bright green, it automatically, and you can see, you use a paintbrush with this, and you have to be super aggressive with it, but you can if you want. It's just up to you. Now what this is gonna do is this is actually going to tie down all those greens. It's even gonna make the Caliban green that you have at the bottom, it's even gonna make that just a little bit darker than what you normally would see. So, just gonna put this on here. And again, we're not concerned with any real details right now. We're not doing detail orientated stuff. We're just doing some base colors. We're doing some easy highlights with our airbrush. And then we'll get into detail work later. Hit it on his arm right there. Hit some on his little fingers there. Even get inside here, even though it might not seem like you may have paid attention to, you know, the eagle crest inside there. Just hit it with some of that. It ain't gonna hurt. you're gonna paint over that too, especially if you know Dark Angels. Now you're gonna hit that with some bone looking colors. It's gonna look gravy. But wanna make sure you're getting his face, shoulder pad. All right, and you can hear my airbrush on. There's a reason for that. The reason being, there's like your little hair dryer here. There's your paint dryer. So you're just going to, as far back as you can, you're just going to use the air and make sure that you're hitting it, boom, boom, boom. Making sure it dries quicker. And you want to hold it a little farther than you would when you're actually using colors. You know, your different paints, is because you don't want it to start moving and for it to look really weird and have like some blotchy point, because you kind of moved the glaze where it shouldn't be. So there we go. And again, if you don't like the way it looks after one coat, go ahead and add more. Again, it's just gonna mute the color just a little bit more, so you just do this last step as many times as you want so you can get the green that you want. Now you can see the shoulder pads are already drying. One of the biggest points on a Space Marine, something that somebody always looks at. Let's get his little backpack here. Backpack. Alright, well, we're just going to continue this and you'll see this after it's done. Alright guys, and this is how it looks after the Waywatcher green. Now you can see the transition is still a little bit harsh, but it did actually mute down the top color just a bit. It gave it a nice green tinge. And you can see the bottom here, nice and green, nice and dark green. Now, personally, I would probably hit it with another coat of glaze, and I'd probably hit it with a third, just depending. But we're gonna leave it right here because this is just a good representation of what glaze actually does. It darkens things a little more. And yeah, here we are. This is pretty much the end product of using the Zenithal highlight and just using 3 colors and just using your glaze at the very end. And like I said, if you want to use your second glaze, the second little coat of glaze, you should be good. But yeah, I actually really like the way this came out.